And as we move on from Mr. Joel Testa, our next guest is an individual that is found in this book. And this is a book that we want to share with all of you that was put together by our friend Tobin Buckner at Jumpstart. And it's called The Akron Resource Guide for Entrepreneurs. And it essentially says Akron is for entrepreneurs. It's a full service guide of every single aspect of offerings for anybody that has an idea, from a blanked out idea of I want to do this one day to I've got the team, I've got the prototype, I've got the office space. So please pick one of these up on your way out if you or anybody you know is into something that has any entrepreneurial value at all. Our next guest is Eric Wise. Eric is the founder of the Software Craftsmanship Guild, which then turned into the Software Guild because it was acquired by Learning House, which is a education online technical conglomerate that takes platforms like his, boot camps like his, into larger markets. The Software Guild is now working with institutions all across the country, including the University of Akron, thanks to Jeff and Carolyn and I at the Excel Center. And soon that'll be available to Akronites as well. But his boot camp that he developed here in Akron is among the highest rated in the entire world. And we could not be happier that we've got someone like Eric here in town. And I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about breaking new ground here. So Eric, come on up.
Thanks, Eric. Grab that. You can sit down here, but grab that mic off the stand there. And come a little closer so you're in the light, since we are recording this. So first, tell us a little bit about your story and your background.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad bought the family a Commodore 64, and when I say he bought the family a Commodore 64, that was my computer very quickly. And very early on, I just wanted to work with computers, and I was just fascinated by automation and just the things I could make the computer to do. So I went on and got out of college and started my developer career. And very quickly, I discovered that, yeah, I was really good at the technology and things like that, but my superpower was improving processes and explaining things to people. So I was very good at understanding what the users, what the business people wanted, and then breaking that down into an elegant technology.
Wait, what was your
solution.
degree?
Huh?
What was your degree?
It was actually MIS, so
Okay.
Management Information Systems. I started in computer science, and when I got in there, I was like, I don't really enjoy physics and calculus, and I already know how to program. So I moved over to the College of Business so I could learn about economics and finance and accounting and things like that.
And what did you do right after school?
I started working for an accounting software company that was actually acquired by Microsoft. So
Tell us about that experience. You going into that job every day, what you liked, what you didn't like, just a sense of what ground you were on then.
yeah, for me, it was always solving the problems and just making people's jobs easier, making things better. Process improvement has always been a big thing of mine. I mean, like, everybody out here uses software on a day-to-day basis. We all have our smartphones and stuff, but it's amazing when you talk to people and you ask them, how many of you actually enjoy using the apps? Very few people enjoy using their computer and the user experience of things. So, I was always big into figuring out, like, how can we do things in less steps? How can we make it easier so that when you open that screen, it's just like, oh, I know what to do.
So keep going from there, though, because eventually I want you to take us through the transition of when you said, you know what, I'm not going to work for this company anymore. I'm going to go launch what you launched. So What was next? Walk us through your progression.
Right. So I worked a lot of jobs. I was kind of a serial job hopper for quite a while because I'd kind of get into a company and there'd be some things on fire, and then I would fix the things on fire and then be like, okay, we just want you to maintain things. And I was like, no, I only like to put out fires. So I hopped jobs a lot, and eventually I ended up at a pet insurance startup, which was probably the smallest company I ever worked for. And they actually put me in charge of the entire development process. So I was building this pet insurance product. There wasn't anything off the shelf you could really use. And, I basically ran the development team, ran the process, ran all the improvements, and I was also in charge of hiring. And you just can't find good
Wait, you're
developers.
just randomly in charge of hiring because
Yeah.
of your background in HR? Is that
yeah,
why?
yeah, apparently. So I was in
Okay.
charge of hiring all the IT people. It's a small company, so that was one thing I liked. That was kind of what opened my eyes to entrepreneurship. Is I really enjoyed coming into work every day and doing something different.
Okay.
So being in charge of hiring technical people, it was awful. There's just not enough technical people. And,
That office was where?
It was in Canton.
In Canton. Okay.
So, not enough technical people, and the people I would interview half the time weren't even good. So I was like, wow, we have a real education problem here in the tech industry, and we don't have enough people, and the people we have just aren't good. And I started really looking at it, and I got frustrated and actually trained 2 young women out of our call center. So they didn't even have IT degrees and stuff. They knew our business really well, and they were sharp. And I just said, hey, you guys want to learn how to write some SQL reports? Yeah, that's a database thing. And they were like, sure, we'll try that. And I started explaining things to them, and it kind of, I had this real deep satisfaction from seeing them actually get to do things correctly and understand what I was doing. And I was like, I'm a teacher.
Wait a minute. Talk about how you felt doing that. What we were talking about earlier is, for everyone in the audience, at what moment during your day do you feel the most excited, and what are you doing at that moment, right? And paying attention to that so that you can find your golden purpose. Was teaching, was that the moment where you said, wow, this is what I really love doing?
Yeah.
Or
Seeing
ahead.
the light bulb come on was really satisfying. Because at that point, I was 12, 15 years into developing software, and I knew how to develop software. I think it was even more, it wasn't challenging anymore. So I'm not saying I'm super coder, but like my day-to-day job, like I knew that I was going to be able to solve these problems and improve these processes. But people are complicated things. and every person learns differently. Everybody resonates with different metaphors, and just the process of going through, a technical concept with somebody who didn't understand, and just figuring out, what modalities and what buttons to push to make the light bulb come on.
full disclosure, he sleeps in pajamas with a cape that says super coder. So
True story.
So keep going from there. What was the end? What caused you to leave that company? What'd you do next?
Well, it went really well, and they became positive contributors to my team. And I said, wow, I want to teach. So, University of Akron is here. They're going to be a partner of mine. So I'm going to dance carefully around this. But I looked into being an adjunct. And then I found out what the adjuncts get paid. And I said, well, I'm way more valuable than that. And
Hence the free food that we offer every night.
and I also kind of looked back at my career, and I said, the places where I grew the most rapidly, there was always a mentor there. There was always somebody I could bounce ideas off of that had been there before. They had the battle scars, and looking back, I said, coding is really a vocation. And if you want to be a blacksmith, the best way to learn to be a great blacksmith or a great electrician or something like that is to go find somebody who's really good at it and apprentice yourself. So I kind of just decided, the way we teach people coding is wrong. The process is flawed. It needs to be improved. So I started the Software Guild around this whole mentor-apprentice model. And, I quit my job. I liquidated my 401k so I'd have money to live on. And my first group of students, I basically told them...
When was this? When did you open it and where?
June 2013 with the Akron Accelerator
Okay.
here downtown. They were the only one that would answer my email. So I had a business plan put together, and I sent it out to all the local incubators, and Akron was the only one that actually responded to me. So I opened it there, and my first students, I basically told them, look, you don't even have to pay me tuition. If you don't get a job, you don't lose anything. But if you get a job, I want to get my money. So
By the way, think about that, folks. That's a pretty huge risk that he took by telling his first students, again, that if they just didn't create a job for them, they didn't actually have to pay for the course.
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing thing to do that you took a big risk, but they did get jobs.
Yeah, I basically, because I self-financed, my runway was 5 months and the course was 3 months.
Okay.
So if none of them had gotten jobs, I was gonna be talking to my bank about what to do about my mortgage. But it worked. They got jobs. I got some income, and then I took on a partner, who brought in some cash money so that I could expand the program.
So tell people about the offering today. Well, how long does it go? How many students? What do you actually teach them? What does it cost them to do that? Give people an idea for what you do now.
Yeah. So, the trick for me is getting the right people into the program. And there's a lot of kind of negative press about for-profit education right now. And part of that is because there are educational institutions out there that if you can write the check, they will let you into the class. From the get-go, I said I wasn't going to do that. I created an aptitude assessment, because I want people to be successful. And that means, they have to have a certain capacity for math and logic and reasoning and things like that. And they also have to have the dedication and will to kind of go through this boot camp program. So it's a 12-week program, but we expect people to put in 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, that's just what it's going to be. And it's very frustrating, it's very tiring at times, and we need the people that can get through that. So, our aptitude assessment that I created, 70% of people fail it. So you come to the door, you want to do this, 70% of the people, we tell them, no, you're not ready for this. You need to go brush up on your math skills, do some other things. And then the people that do make it into the program, we have an 8-week part-time, we call it the pre-work program, where they learn some basics of programming in HTML. And the pre-work is basically, we're going to set some deadlines, and you're going to have to do some studying, and you're going to have to ask questions and work with our instructors. And if you're not willing to manage your time or put in the effort, out you go. And we lose another 10, 15% of our students in that pre-work program.
That's pretty amazing. So talk about, it's really easy to see if you're Joel and you literally just house the homeless, you'd sleep pretty well at night knowing the contribution you made. Talk about some of the feedback that you got from people whose lives were changed by developing these skills and becoming employable that weren't before that. Tell us some stories.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the amazing part. That's what makes me want to get up and go to work in the morning is, now that we have all these statistics and everything because we've been running the program for 3 years, but, our average student increases their salary by $20,000. So the program's $10,000, but in 12 weeks you can increase your salary by $20,000. I mean, that's an ROI that you just don't see in other places in the education industry, at least immediately. I mean, definitely getting a degree has a lot of value over time. The other thing is we have a 96% job placement rate. So, the
96% placement.
96%. Within 120 days of graduation. So,
where is the dude that failed?
Well, that's the interesting thing about hiring is, anybody that graduates from our program has the skills. But the unfortunate part is when you go into an interview, there is a little bit of a popularity context there. And usually the people that fail to get a job are the ones that they just go to pieces in the interview. They just can't connect with somebody in the interview. They have some it's usually social problems, not technical problems that are keeping people out. And then there's a subset of people that they get through the program and they're like, wow, this just isn't my passion. And they just go back to what they were doing. And that's fine.
Where have some of the people come from? Tell us some people that came from one industry are now in a technical industry.
That was kind of the surprising thing to me because I thought a lot of people would be technically oriented. They'd be people that maybe they didn't want to go to college for computer science. They wanted to take the quick route. But what we got is our average student is somewhere between 28 and 40 years old. They usually have a degree. It's usually in something else. And actually, some of my best students are linguistics majors.
It's interesting.
English majors. Philosophy majors do really well. They're logical. But most of our people are mid-career, and they just get into their career, and they're like, wow, I just don't have any upward mobility. It's really hard for me to find jobs. I'm not making very much money, and they want to make a switch. They kind of discover tech because there's a lot of media going on, and there's places like Code Academy and stuff where people can, code.org, where people can try coding, and they're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And then they kind of discover that, oh, programmers are not basement dwellers, because that's usually what keeps, especially the women, what seems to be keeping them out of the field is they have this vision of the basement nerd that never communicates with anybody.
Actually, I was going to ask you if your shoes are brand new or if you just don't go outside.
These are brand new.
All right.
These are brand
I
new.
believe you, okay?
I bought them this morning.
I believe you. So you're not a basement dweller. We've established
Yeah.
that. They're just new shoes, people.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of being an entrepreneur is that I don't ever want to wear a suit.
Okay.
Unless it's for a wedding or a funeral.
So talk to us specifically about Akron. The talent you're seeing, the growth you're seeing in technical careers, and in your growth within your organization. Tell us about that. Are you excited about Akron? You started on the premise that we don't have enough tech talent in Akron. How do you feel it's going now?
I think it's going great. I mean, with the placement rate, the other interesting thing about the Guild is that half of our students come from out of state. And then a quarter of them actually stay in Northeast Ohio and take jobs.
Okay, so that's significant, guys. Ian and I were talking about that with you earlier before we started tonight. He is drawing people to come to this school. They come from out of Ohio, but then a percentage of them stay and get a job here in Ohio. So you're actually, we all worry about a talent drain. You're increasing the Akron and Northeast Ohio talent pool, correct?
Right. And you take somebody like I just had a graduate from San Diego, last year. He was in one of the last classes I personally taught, because now that I'm running the teachers, I'm doing less in classroom stuff, which actually takes me off my ground.
Yeah, okay.
I want to do more classroom stuff in the future because I miss it. But this guy's from San Diego. He's a young guy, has a wife, and he comes out here, and a lot of the students that come from out of town, they're we ask them at the beginning, are you going to stay and look for work here? And most of them are like, nah, I'm going back to where I was. And then they get in town and they're like, wait a minute, I can own what? For how much in Akron versus San Diego? And they're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, Northeast Ohio is a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to start my career. I can get a good job and save some money. And then if I want to go back to the coast later, I can do that. But, I think we don't do a good enough job of selling like the kind of lifestyle you can live.
We agree. That's the whole reason all of you are in this room, I hope. The whole reason that I can speak on behalf of the Excel Center, the reason that we met with Tony and wanted to do these Blueprints to Excel nights was to get all of us in this room to address these kinds of issues. Yeah. We actually have, this is a great place to live. We have so many assets, and I agree we don't sell it well. We don't sell it as well as we could to get people to come here. So the fact that they're surprised that this is a nice place to live is our failing. We just need to do a better job of proudly stating that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and then, I talked to, we have, companies come through the accelerator and stuff. We had a company from, in one of the West Coast areas, and they're like, oh my God, we can hire engineers like 2 for 1 in Northeast Ohio compared to what we have to pay them in Silicon Valley. Sure. And, I just feel like, if you have a business, you can get a lot of legs here. Your runway is just that much longer because, the cost of living is just reasonable.
So tell people, before we move, we want to open the floor to let you guys talk to our guest tonight. Tell people where you're located and invite them to visit, and then you can yell at me afterwards for inviting people to visit.
No, that's fine.
They're all studying, so
actually,
be quiet if you go in there.
Anybody who emails me can get a tour. It's fine.
Tell them your email address.
I have cards, so
okay.
I'll give it to them.
All right.
But we're right on South Main. The Akron Accelerator building is right in the Canal Place complex, right by the Gojo building. So there's a big blue awning there. We're on the 6th floor. And we usually have anywhere between 30 and 70 students at a time at this point.
So again, I think it's a great story, like Joel's, getting into the things that weren't where you started, that you had the chance starting as a technical person and finding your resonant frequency in teaching. Your golden purpose really was to raise other people's level and to teach them. And again, guys, just like with Joel's work, we are the beneficiary of your work because you're bringing more talent and training more talent in Akron, which gives us a chance to raise the level all the way around of our companies here. So again, everybody say thank you for everything that you guys do there.
Thank you.